Today we are hosting Jessica, who is a fourth year at U of T, specializing in physiology, minoring in psychology. She graduated from Old Scona in Edmonton, average at full IB. She can talk in both Mandarin and English fluently. And my name's Cindy. I finished full IB at Sir Winston Churchill. I do volunteering pretty constantly in my spare time. And I'm also going to U of T, so I'm excited to hear Jessica's advice. And I'm joined by Kerry, who is a grade 10 full IB at Western Canada High School, and he is going to be my fellow host. So as I was saying, Jessica, you transitioned from IB to the university, to U of T. So how was the IB program different in preparing you from the regular program, just to repeat for those of you who can't hear?
Yeah, it's good now. It's connected. The YouTube is open. Thank goodness.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. I just like to welcome everyone who's on YouTube. And yeah, so you the only question that we did, now that we're also repeating, is that what difference does it make to have graduated from IB or from a regular high school program when heading to university?
Right.
Yeah, so I think the first good thing to reassure everyone is that in terms of knowledge and how to study and workload, there's not much difference between the regular program and an IB program. So don't feel as if you're underprepared if you graduated from a regular program, especially since most of us are from Alberta. The Alberta curriculum in terms of basic information is one of the best in the country. So when I headed to university, I realized a lot of things that I was being taught in first year, I thought it was review because I've learned it before. But my fellow students from Ontario high schools, they actually felt like it was new information. So even if you graduated from a regular program in Alberta high schools, you're pretty prepared to heading into university. The only difference, and I would say an advantage for people who have completed IB or AP, is the fact that you have more exposure to additional assignments or concepts beyond just basic information. So for example, in the IB program, any subjects taken in IB requires you to do a writing assignment that is similar to conducting individual research. And what I mean by that is that you have to come up with a topic yourself, do some basic research and looking for citations and references, and then complete either your own experiments or compile a lot of primary articles or other people's information, and then use a logical flow and writing to present your ideas and your evidence. And together you complete a writing assignment that is somewhat like answering a research question. And this is something that you'll start to be experiencing in university, even start from day one, is where you have writing assignments or lab reports that are very much requiring for you to think of what you are doing now as a research question and then presenting the information in a written format. So lab reports or essays, all of these, or research papers in any field, these are the things that you'll have to get used to really fast heading into university.
Right, and IB does give you kind of a head start on that, so it's much easier to adapt in university.
So in general, the IB program didn't really offer much difference in terms of curriculum from the Alberta curriculum. But besides that, what did being in a college prep program like IB teach you about study skills and habits and time management in university?
That's a really good question as well, because I think, as I said, if IB has a lot more writing assignments, then obviously your time management skills will be trained, right? So I think the one big thing that it really prepared me for is how to manage the workload in university, because you're juggling 4 or 5 different courses and many assignments and many tests due at the same time, especially that in university, you have a lot of things due and a lot of tests at the same time as new information being delivered to you. You'll have to be able to juggle your attention and your time management skills very well. For example, while you're studying for the test tomorrow, you also need to be able to take in the information from the lecture this morning, while you're also having to finish a writing assignment due the day after. So you'll have to have the skill of pre-planning, knowing how long it will take you to finish this assignment or to study for this test, and then making sure that you don't leave it to the very end to cram. So what if you had many tests on the same day? What if you had a test and an assignment on the same day, right? So these things you'll have to pre-plan and pre-study. Or if, for example, you had classes that collided, or if you had other endeavors that you had to run so that you missed class, so make sure you catch up as soon as possible. Or even if you just went to lecture today, come home and review what you studied today so that you never head to the next class confused. Because if you ever come out of a lecture confused, you'll realize you have no time to catch up and you'll be confused for the weeks after. And when the assignments or the finals come around, you don't have additional time to catch up with what you didn't study for previously.
Yeah, so definitely time management, managing that huge course load that you get in IB really translates to university. So it's more of like a skills benefit than a curriculum benefit.
For sure.
Yeah, so now transitioning onto kind of like the support you got. IB is a really challenging program. University is really challenging for all students, and you need a lot of support to get through both of them. So how much academic or family support did you get while you were completing IB in high school?
Yeah, so I think that's a question that's worth for a lot of families to hear about, especially when you're about to finish IB in grade 12. So I think the most family support that I'm very grateful for, especially in grade 12, was my parental support in terms of life. For example, just supporting like my everyday living. Like I never had to worry about what I ate today. I never had to worry about whether I could wake up to go to school. I never had to worry about anything that was not really academic focused. So for example, if I needed to, I could have my food delivered to me by my parents if I needed to cram that night to finish a test. And the reason that I mentioned this is because one of the biggest transitions and culture shocks when heading into university is that there is no longer this type of support when in university. In university, you'll have to juggle a lot of workload, but on top of that, the most important stressor is how to take care of yourself in terms of life. No one is, even in academically, your teachers or your parents or your peers, they're not going to be there to motivate you to work hard academically. But in terms of life, no one's there to cook for you. No one's there to clean your room. No one's there to wake you up. No one is there to make sure you are even wearing clothes that socks that don't stand up on the carpet, So these types of things, these types of things are very important. And not until you get there, you'll never realize how much of a subconscious stressor those things are. Right. Because if you're hungry, if you're sleep deprived, you're not going to be in the best mindset to study at all, even if you know the test is tomorrow. Yeah.
Right. So going to university is a huge challenge. And now let's talk about these challenges and transition to all the stress that comes from university and how to properly manage that stress so you can get the best experience. So let's add on to like what your previous point. A lot of high school seniors get really stressed at how hard university is. And like as a high school senior myself, I see a lot of them posting things on online forums saying, oh my God, university is terrible. I used to get 100s all the time and now I got like a 27%. So are these posts completely accurate, or are people on Reddit just extremely whiny?
So I would say that you can listen to these posts to an extent, but with a grain of salt, I would say, because I do think the culture shock is there. We often say that the first midterms are a slap of reality by society to you, because most people heading into university are usually really confident in themselves. They're like, oh, I was, doing very well in high school. I expect to be able to do a lot. But I think, as I said previously, not only is the courses harder, not only is academic change a big thing. Being in a different environment is much more of a stressor than people think. But the reason that I think that you shouldn't let those, whiny Redditors get to you is because you chose this university for a reason, right? You chose to go to university, you chose to go to this program, and you know what you want coming out of university. If you let these complaints get to you, then you are not spending your time the most responsibly at university. So I think the best thing is to keep in mind what you saw in this university when you made the decision to go here. For example, for me, U of T, I know it's hard. I know the profs are very strict, but why did we choose U of T? Because U of T has the best research opportunities in Canada. If you wanted to really be in this academic field, this is the top-notch stuff, right? So you need to get in here, remember why you're here, and work towards that goal. You're the only thing that can motivate yourself. Internal motivation is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Definitely. No one's gonna help you if you don't do anything about it. No one's gonna stop you if you really care.
Exactly.
Keeping your goals in mind is a really key point in university.
Mm-hmm.
So when managing a university level course load, how would you recommend students to space out their courses or pick electives?
That's actually a really good question. One thing that students are not used to is picking their own timetable, because high schools, they're just given to you based on when these classes are offered, right? But in university, you have a plethora of courses. You're like, wow, I didn't even know these things are possible. Did you know at U of T there's courses on death and dying in the medieval times?
Really?
Yeah, there.
Wow.
I think you talk about the Black Death or something. Don't ask me, didn't take it. But I think, as I said before, the most important thing is time management. I have a few tips for students heading in. So the first thing that you should do is to try to group your lectures together and to make use of your time responsibly. For example, if you have, in high school, for example, some of us had spares, right? But you kind of just stayed at school, or maybe you went out and got a snack, or maybe you stayed with friends, talked a little bit, did a little bit of homework. But in university, when you don't have a group of friends to head to every class with, most likely 1 or 2 hours between lectures will just be wasted by you sitting in a cafeteria on a couch comfortably watching YouTube. I know that because I did that. So I think the most important thing is to try to group lectures together where you head to school today, you do 4 hours of lecture and you head home, and then now you can plan out your studying and the rest of your day. And also try to have more than one lecture on one day. Because if you only had one lecture and it's really snowing outside, you have to walk 20 minutes to get there, it's so easy to just say, let's not go. And the worst thing you can do in university is to skip class, because you skip this one class, you'll be behind for the rest of the semester and you have no time to catch up ever again. So keep in mind when you're picking classes, try to use your time responsibly and don't waste time. And then when you're picking electives, make sure that you think about whether you can juggle all these course loads. Here's where Reddit comes in. Just type in U of T course code, and all of the Redditors will tell you, hey, is it a heavy course code? Is it really hard, right? If you have a lot of required courses that are very information heavy, maybe pick something that you think you'll enjoy. Maybe cinema classes, phys ed courses. And if you think that you can handle more courses, maybe take more electives regarding your field to broaden your knowledge perspective, right?
Yeah, definitely. And just adding on to that really quickly, I've been looking on Reddit for how to plan out my timetable, and it's really helpful. Just, take everything with a grain of salt, and use forums for helpful things, because they're way better than the resources that the university has been emailing me. So now that we understand kind of how to space out your course load properly, let's talk about the professors that are actually teaching the courses. So professors are way more busy than high school teachers because they have research, they teach hundreds of students in the day, and they don't have time to talk one-on-one with you, just like high school teachers. So how would you recommend students stay connected to professors and get help when they're studying?
For sure. I think one big thing that people find very stressful heading into university, that's a culture shock, is the fact that you receive almost no help from teaching staff, because you are the only one that is able to manage how the course is progressing. They're only here to deliver the information, right? You need to know what to study today. You need to know when the tests are coming. You need to know what they're looking for in assignments. So you're the only one that can push you along. And you're the only one that can identify, oh, I'm struggling and I need to get help. And this is when office hours come in. Office hours is absolutely very important, and it's every prof's only time that you can contact them. So office hours are pretty much free time that the professors will set aside every week, 1 or 2 hours every week, that they will just open their office doors and let students come in and talk to them about anything regarding the course. If you have specific questions, if you have things you don't understand, or maybe even you're just like, hey, I'm really interested in this course. Can you recommend some other courses similar to this, right? So these are office hours. And if you ever get confused doing practice problems, or maybe you, for example, didn't do very well on a test or an assignment, and you wanted to go ask him why you got docked off marks, this is the perfect opportunity. And sometimes it might conflict with your other classes. So I would say don't skip classes to go to office hours, but instead email the professor and state your reason. And this is a very valid reason. So they might say, let's make an arrangement and meet together. And then also one last thing is that every course has TAs. TAs are very flexible and approachable. You can email them anytime and they will happily meet with you. And also TAs are good people to go to for help, because they are the people that actually mark your assignments. So you can maybe go to them to ask them, hey, what are you actually looking for? Or why did you take me off a mark off here, and what can I work on for the future?
Right. But in the cases that you can't see the TAs or you can't access the office hours, what would be the most efficient way of self-studying?
Yes, exactly. So as I said before, self-studying, you're the only one that can push yourself along. But definitely you have times where you just feel so stuck, right? It's like, I can think about this all day, but I still can't actually understand. So here's when you have to use your most important resource, which is your peers. You're not the only one taking this class, right? So that means you're not the only one having this problem, right? So peers, for example, lab mates, most labs are done in pairs, or people from the same lecture, they might have registered study groups, or maybe they just have their own study groups from either Facebook, or you just see a group of people in the library studying this course. Or honestly, if you just sit in lecture, turn to the person beside you and be like, hey, want to study together? Chances are they'll say yes, because in first year, this is what people do. People love making friends and studying together. And when you bounce ideas off of each other, this is the best time for you guys to progress together. And don't be too scared of the competitive culture. A lot of people talk about, oh my gosh, I'm going to succeed, so I'm going to make you really bad. I'm never going to help you out. But most people in university are actually here to do well themselves. And the best way to do well is to have positive competition where everyone holds hands together to try to do well together. This is where 1 + 1 equals more than 2.
Yeah, definitely. So there are lots of ways to succeed despite all the difficulties. So let's go back to what you said before. You said like midterms were like a slap in the face from society. And obviously a lot of people's grades drop a lot. And obviously there are lots of reasons for that. So why do you think people's grades drop so much? And like, is it because of testing style? Is it because of stress? Could you just go a bit more into detail about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think, as I said before, midterms are usually the first kind of hurdle you have to get over in university. And it's the first time you kind of experience, I don't want to say failure, but some difficulty, right, in your academic life. So midterms usually happen in October, and they're the first sort of assessments that you'll have in first year. And the bad thing is they all happen together. We call it midterms week. Most courses will have midterms around then, and you'll be juggling many midterms and possibly assignments and also new information being delivered together. So this is your first test to stress and time management. And then, so first of all, I think people do have a little bit of, not getting used to the testing environment, because you are also getting tested while new information through lecture is delivered. Most tests are in a different lecture hall than where you're used to, and they're not at a different time than when that course is usually being taught. So for U of T, for example, big courses in first year, a lot of times they are at night from 7 to 9, 7 to 10, something like that. And it's written in exam center. It's a giant building with rooms that sit 200 to 300 people. And you just go in there, everyone, like you can feel the anxiety hang up in the air, and everyone just writes that test and leaves. So, and that's very much of a stress factor from the external. And then I would say, most people are also not very used to the testing style, because in high school, we kind of have quizzes that kind of monitor our progress. We have unit tests that kind of, tell us what happened in the past month. And then you really know your teacher and what they're going to test and how they word their answers, right? But for university, this is the first time you kind of truly see how your professor tests. So you look at you open your testing paper and you might say, wow, his questions make no grammatical sense, but this is what you have to deal with. But the good thing is, keep in mind, everyone deals with the same thing, right? So everyone is probably as confused as you are. So what I would say is, don't be too anxious or too upset about the results of the first midterms. I would say these midterms are actually just the method for you to do well on the course overall, because midterms are not worth as much as finals, right? But your midterm marks are the opportunity for you to take to the office hours or the TAs to think about how you can improve for finals.
Right. And following these midterms, there will be a lot more tests, and the final is very heavily weighted. There are lots of rumors that U of T grades are heavily deflated. How true are these claims?
So I would say that no prof openly deflates marks, because there's no such thing as curving someone down. If you truly had a 90, no prof will just go, you don't deserve that, I'll give you an 80, right? So there's no such thing as deflation. But I would say perhaps compared to other universities, especially those that are not very research prestigious, the curriculum or the marking might be a little bit more strict. And the reason for that is the GPA is very competitive, and the research opportunities are only given to people who are willing to work even harder than people from other universities, right? But this is something you'll have to keep in mind when you head into U of T, because this is what you chose and this is what you decided to challenge yourself with. So, but keep in mind that you're only comparing with yourself. You're not comparing with other people. It's not going to be hard to the point that you're never going to be able to do. So I would say the difficult part about U of T is that a lot more is being tested on application and understanding rather than just memorizing.
Right. So it's not just the professors want to see you fail. It's just that the course is harder, and that creates a lot of pressure. And another really significant source of pressure is actually from parents, because parents did uni in China, right? Most parents haven't really experienced Canadian uni. And once you, let's say, fail your midterm or whatever, they say, oh my God, you were so smart, what happened to you? And there's this pressure that like builds up. So how do you shake off the pressure that you get from your own parents?
For sure. I think this is very common, and I was very grateful that my parents didn't provide this type of negative pressure. They definitely gave me positive pressure for motivation, but some negative pressure that I think not only the students need to try to fix, but we also need to remind parents is that when parents say, look, I understand what you're going through, you can't just tell me you don't understand. And you can't just tell me, hey, I'm trying hard, but I'm not getting good marks. Because the difference is that, well, the truth is there is a big difference between university in China in the 90s versus university in Canada in the 2020s, right? So I think in China, we all know how much struggle students went through to get through the Gaokao, right? And that's your peak anxiety level. And then when you head into university, first of all, you might not head into a university that you like, and you might not be doing a program that you're really interested in. And then also the marking and the strictness really decreases when you head into university. So most people didn't expect a lot of competitiveness and pressure in university. Well, students here is a little bit different because we didn't experience that much pressure in high school. The only thing high school provided us was kind of an introduction to many fields of study that we could possibly do in university. So the assumption when heading into university from all teaching staff is that this is the program you're actually interested in, and you've told yourself that you're ready for more investment into this field of study for the future, like as if this is going to be your career, right? So they obviously expect you to be able to motivate yourself and to delve in deeper. So, and not only are they expecting you to put pressure on yourself, they're expecting you to be able to handle pressure that they give you, because only the best of the best will become the level that they are as professors and researchers, right? So I think in terms of pressure, parents should try to say, I know what you're feeling and I know you can do better. Instead, you can put a little bit more positive pressure in terms of, I see that you are struggling and I see that you're slipping. Maybe it's something that you're doing that's wrong. Maybe we can talk about how you can improve for the future. And then when the child or student hears these types of things, you can be like, hey, from an external perspective, what do you think I could improve on? Maybe you can talk about these things. You can use their positive pressure as a self-reflection moment and find out how you can motivate yourself more to improve and do better for the future. Because keep in mind, even if you start slipping, as long as the trend goes up, that's a success for you.
Right. Families can be difficult at times, but it's always nice to have some encouragement.
For sure.
I heard that peers are extremely competitive at U of T, as it is such a big school with a big population. So what can you do to make friends and feel included in universities?
Sure. That's also a really good question. That's a big part of university life and engagement, I would say. So first part, you said that peers are extremely competitive. I just wanted to say that that's possible, but I would say it's up to you to feel that as a positive or a negative competition. For example, if you had a bunch of people that you like studying together, you'd finish lecture today and then you head to the library together and you discuss what you learned and you do some practice problems. Those kind of things are very good because everyone is working together and bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's very positive competition because everyone's working together to achieve the best. But then when it becomes negative competition is when you start to feel anxiety about looking at these people working around you. For example, you've already been here for 4 hours and it's time to go to dinner, but they are sitting here like, oh my gosh, I haven't done 100 more problems. I can't leave. But for you, you already put in enough effort and it's more important to take care of your health to go eat dinner, this is when you have to stop yourself and say, what is better for me? Should I stay here and risk my health and risk my mental health to just match what these people are doing, even though it's not for me? Or should I go and eat dinner and then go home and plan out the rest of my studying schedule, right? So it's up to you to use your peers wisely and to use competition wisely. And then I just wanted to say your second part of your question about how to make friends and feel included. It's also something very important because I personally also dealt with this. The first couple weeks at university, I felt like I was very alone and not settled, because in such a big environment, you almost feel like you have no one that you're in common with, right? You're just heading to class by yourself, and you don't really know what you're doing and where to go when you don't have class anymore. So I think the biggest thing is to find people who share your interests. It could be just people that you take classes with. You realize you guys are in the same program. You might be able to head to a different few classes together and study together. That's maybe step one. But I think the most important thing is to be able to relax your mind by doing something you truly are interested in. Something like hobbies, extracurriculars, things you are passionate about and advocate about. For example, student clubs that are like either sports, arts, anything like those that you've done for past. Maybe do volunteering in fields that you've done before, or maybe student organizations in fields of study, or maybe in topics of social importance, like politics, for example. All of these things, you go to there and you realize that people are very welcoming if you're interested in what they do. And then one last tip is to be involved. Don't just go there, do the activity and leave, because you really didn't immerse yourself in that culture. So what I would recommend is go there, be involved. Like, listen to who they are, listen to what their objective is, listen to what they want to do as a club, and get to know them. Maybe get to know the exec team, maybe be on the exec team. And then you'll soon realize that these people will actually make you feel very at home. At university, when people say, what do you do at university? You can say, hey, I'm a part of this really good club that really helps me release some of my stress that I get from school.
Yeah, so definitely you should try to reach out to people. Other people are trying to reach out to you, and
for sure.
That rumor of like the peers want to destroy your future is definitely one of the overblown parts about university. All right, so thank you for sharing about all the ways that you can feel pressure at university, and more importantly, how to deal with the pressure, whether it's academic or social or any other aspect of university life. So now let's reflect a bit about mental health and stress management, both applying to university and in general. So obviously students feel a lot of stress when they're in situations like going to university for the first time. So how would you recommend students to monitor and manage their stress levels?
For sure. I think one of the bigger important topics right now is about student mental health. It's something that is becoming more and more prevalent and people struggle with. The good thing is we are talking about it more, but the less fortunate thing is we don't really have good ways to deal with it. Because I think very importantly, even though mental health is a disease, it's not something that we can see, right? So this is something that needs to be worked on even more as a society. For example, I've always remembered this thing that one of my friends have said who struggles with her mental health is that if she broke her arm, she can definitely within a snap just say, I need to defer my exam today. But let's say if she had anxiety and she had a panic attack today, no one's going to say, oh my gosh, you need to go rest. Let's defer your exam. So I think this is one of the big things that we need to work on as a society, and that more people need to accept and be able to support, either when people already are struggling with mental health, or how we can prevent it before it advances to a clinically diagnosed mental disease. So I want to start with managing stress levels so that it doesn't become a clinical problem. So the first thing is everyone needs to recognize that stress, pressure, anxiety, and even depression is very common in everyone's life. Everyone has those periods and everyone experiences those feelings and emotions. And you should never think of these things as bad. These things happen and you should accept that they happen and think about why they happen and know that they should go away because you are a healthy person. Healthy people do experience these things, but they should be able to manage them. So first thing I would say is constantly to self-manage and self-reflect your personal state. For example, if you feel as if something happened today and you're a little bit upset, you feel like your emotion and your stress level is going through a roller coaster, never say, I can't control my emotions and I can't control what I do. Don't let emotions control you. Always try to say, I can feel. It's okay if I feel, but let's try to logically manage it so that it doesn't affect my behavior and my thinking for the future. Something I and my friends do is before you sleep, maybe you're just lying on the bed, you're not feeling very well, you can't really sleep, but try to go through some thought exercises. Think about what happened today. How did I react to this thing? Am I sad? What is my emotional response? And how much is it influencing me, even physically or mentally? Like, I'm so sad that I can't sleep. I'm so sad that I can't think of anything else. But is how can I do things so that it doesn't affect me for if I slept today, is it still going to influence me tomorrow morning? Is it still going to influence how I behave tomorrow? Is it going to affect for a long term? Because if every tiny thing affects you for a long time and every day there is a tiny thing, then obviously it will build up towards something really big that will push you down into a vicious dark cycle, into a period that you can't get out of and you can no longer self-save. So if you're realizing you're in a negative state today and then this is when you need to self-realize that I need to let out these negative feelings and negative emotions so that even if I'm upset today, I can tell myself it's okay I'm upset today, but it's not okay if I'm upset tomorrow. So how do I make that change? These are some things that people do and have been successful. For example, exercise. Go on a little run, go out or go on a little walk, go outside, breathe some fresh air. Just let your mind be blank. Think about, I'm upset today, but does it really affect me in the future? Is people, when I'm 50 years old doing my job, is people really going to care about a midterm mark in my first year of university? No, right? Or for example, treat yourself with some good food or some gifts. Make yourself feel a little bit happy, right? Even though this thing happened that made me upset, my life still goes on. I can still be happy. I'm not worthless just because this tiny thing happened, right? Or the most important thing is to care for yourself, not only by yourself, but from a support group, right? Talking to friends, talking to family. You can, just complain a little bit about these things. When you let it out, it feels a little bit better. Or maybe you can just talk about something really happy and forget about this thing. The most important thing is break away from the things that is causing you stress, right? If this midterm you did bad and you're upset about it, stop thinking about it. Think about how you can do better in the future. If somebody is making you really upset and you realize that they're only giving you negative energy and you really shouldn't be friends anymore, then don't be afraid to cut them out of your life, because the most important thing is yourself, right? So all of these things, the most important thing in the center is to make sure that you're constantly self-monitoring and constantly self-caring. When you think, whenever you have fluctuations in mood or stress levels, you need to be the one to take initiative and make sure it doesn't affect you in the long term.
Right. Parents and the community around you play a big part in helping you with your mental health. But to expand a bit further, why do you think these people should know more about this mental health?
Yeah, I think like I said before, there's a lot of advocacy for this, especially in media, but there's like people know now about this concept of mental health, but I think there's still very little change in the way it's being handled and the way it's being treated, because especially Chinese parents, I think these, like, they, in their minds, there's a concept of mental health, but they never really truly understand or apply it to their own children. So still, when their kids say, hey, I might be struggling or I need some help, they still don't really know how to properly give support. So I would say that not only do you have to acknowledge that this thing or this idea exists, but you have to truly try to accept that this thing might happen around you and know the ways you can help when you see it. So some things I would say is you can know that this thing exists, but don't just assume. But when you see that there is a downwards trend, talk to them about it, accept them for whatever is happening or who they are, and be supportive when they need to get help.
Yeah, definitely. People are becoming more aware of mental health, and the next step is definitely to take action and do something about it. As you said, there are lots of things that parents can do to support their child's mental health, and even yourself as a student, you can help your friends, your siblings, other students' mental health as well. So that brings an end to our conversation. If we have any questions from the chat, we'll be taking those really soon. So if you have any questions, put them in the Zoom chat right now and we can answer them. But we're just going to wait for a while. Some of the questions are already there. So the first question is for midterms and finals, are the formats of all the midterms and finals from one professor super constant, there's no real change, or are there a lot of changes between different tests given by the same professor?
That really depends on the professor, but the good thing is there's such thing as a syllabus that is given to students at the beginning of every course, and they will almost very clearly, most of the time, pretty clearly tell you the dates and formats and percent worth of every assessment. So they should tell you probably October 18th, we have a midterm worth 20%, all multiple choice, 40 questions. And then December 12th, we have a final multiple choice and short answer worth 50%, something like that. So you are well prepared for what is coming. Well, you think you are. But then when you see it, you're like,
Yeah, sometimes professors, sometimes they're good communicators, sometimes they're really not. Most teachers. Obviously, some teachers are super clear. Other teachers, you have to scream at them to be clear. So
yeah,
I don't know, you have to adapt to professors a lot, I guess.
For sure. That's a very big thing that people are not used to in university.
Mm-hmm. Also, if there's questions on the YouTube, could someone start pasting them to the chat, because I can only see the chat right now.
I just wanted to say, if parents want to ask questions in Chinese, I can also answer in Chinese. Yeah.
Yes, Jessica is very fluent in Chinese. We have a question about mental health. Should students strongly advocate for themselves regarding mental health if their parents can't support? So if students feel like they're trapped or something, they could say to another adult, like a counselor or maybe some mental health, a psychologist or something, and tell them about their struggles.
For sure. I think having social support and having someone to just listen and accept you is very important when you're struggling. I think the most important thing is mental health patients are already feeling very alone. So the most important thing is for them to know that there is someone there to listen to their problems and never see them less just because they're struggling. So for example, if you find friends who can support you, or if you need professional help, universities always have mental health clinics that can set you up with free counselors. And I think regarding peers, for example, if you can find friends that will just be there to listen to your thought process and say, hey, I can't relate, but I understand that you're struggling and I'm here if you need me. I think that's the most important sentence that someone needs to hear, is that I'm willing to help and I'm here if you need. So I think when patients need someone to listen, they really should advocate for themselves. And one thing that I wanted to add is that when you're trying to support someone with mental health issues, just listen to what they need, because maybe you're trying to help, but you're actually doing harm to them without trying, because there's times where the way you try to help might be difficult for them to accept. And try not to be the one to label them with labels like, oh my gosh, you're struggling, you must be depressed. You should never be the one to make that diagnosis, because not only are you not a professional, but you don't really truly know what condition they're in. If you give them the label, or if you plant the seed in their minds, maybe they're not struggling as much, but they might think about the possibility and then overdiagnose themselves, and then become a vicious cycle where they, just because they had that belief, they will unconsciously act more so that the belief comes true. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy in psychology.
Yeah, and it's also another like part of that independence. Not only do you have to take care of yourself physically, you also have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question in Chinese. 请问高中是否选择 IB 对读大学有什么帮助吗？谢谢. So like that IB question, but it's in Chinese.
Sure. 可以给您一点建议，就是是否选择 IB 对读大学的帮助，其实需要看那孩子上大学之后想走的路是什么。就比如说像我们比较对于学术感兴趣的话，以后会做一些研究啊，这种东西的话，从大一开始就需要接触写一些除了考试呀，应对考试或者是做一些选择题之外，需要开始考虑怎样自主的做研究。这些呢是 IB 可以帮助做一些准备的，因为从 IB 从11年级、12年级开始就开始有一些你需要自己去选择的命题、论文题目，然后去自己做一些 research 呀，去读一些文献呀，然后自己能写一篇2000字左右的那么一篇报告。然后这件事情呢，在从大一开始，在大学里就会出现。但是如果是孩子并不想走学术这条路线，更想去学一些知识啊，或者说是学一门手艺，出来能找工作，或者是比如说像工程师啊这种其实是否选择 IB 不一定就是最好的选择，因为不上 IB 基本上能学到的各科目的知识都是差不多的。是。
好的, okay. If there's any more questions, we'll wait for a few more minutes, maybe like 1 more minute for the chat to fill up. If not, we will...
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go for it.
Sure.
Yeah. So earlier on, you talked about the difference between high school timetables and like college schedules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, how would you go about just signing up for courses and just basically on that topic?
Okay, sure. So I think the good thing is most college programs provides, especially in first year, provides you with a pretty good required courses list, so that in first year, people in the same program have similar courses that you have to take. For example, in sciences, obviously you have to take intro to math, chem, biophysics, those kind of things. So there are some that are decided for you, but then the most important ones is to choose electives. but also to choose a timetable that fits your style, because most of these courses have numerous course times. Like you can, if you're a morning person, maybe you should go to the 9 a.m. class. If you're a night person, maybe you should go to the 5 p.m. class, right? So these things you have to decide for yourself. And then you first of all, space out your courses. Don't have 8 hours of lecture on one day and 1 hour on the other day. Make every day like 3 to 4 hours of lecture, so that you can have a regular schedule set up for yourself. Wake up at 8, make your bed, maybe even go work out, eat breakfast, very important, and then head to class, meet with your friends, go through 3 hours of lecture, go eat lunch, maybe study for a little bit in the library, go eat dinner, go do your club thing until like 9 p.m. and then do some homework and then sleep. If you can have a very standard schedule every day, you'll realize keeping up the schedule and making sure that you are very on top of material is very easy for yourself.
Right. Balance and time management is a really important part of university.
For sure.
So another Chinese question coming in. 对于即将读高中的学生，您有什么建议和需要提前做准备的推荐？谢谢。
即将读高中就是9年级到10年级的变化，对吧？
Yeah.
不过有的学校好像是8年级到9年级啊，无所谓了。就是我觉得每次跳一个学校，比如说就是小升初呀、初升高呀、高升大学呀，都是一个比较大的飞跃。不仅是学业上的，还有就是学习方法以及学习效果都会是一个比较大的需要越过的小高山。就是对于即将读高中的学生，我觉得比起初中来讲，首先高中呢就需要更多的一些独立学习能力。然后首先第一点不同就是你不会有班主任啊，或者说你不会有一样的同学了，就会变成你去上的课只是选这门课的人一起上，所以说你有可能你的朋友就不跟你上一样的课了，所以说你就开始变成自己得去找人，每节课有不同的同学，你得去找他们一起学习。还有就是老师不太会帮你做作业，或者说帮你考试了。一般就是老师说我们学1个月，明天要 unit test， 你自己去找你该会什么，因为我记得在初中的时候，老师会说我们学了这些事情，你回去看一眼，然后明天考试，就是这种东西都没有了，更需要自主的学习能力。然后还有就是到了高中的时候会相对自由一些，一定要有一些自控力。就比如说要开始带电脑、带手机，然后就是有的时候就是没课的话，可以出去吃个饭，出去溜一溜，这些事情就是就作为家长的话，我觉得一定要给孩子灌输，就是你自由的时间可以出去玩，但是一定要管好自己，一定要对自己负责。比如说你马上就要考试了，你还决定出去玩，是不是对于自己来说其实是个伤害而不是好处呢？对，我觉得是这样。
Okay. Seeing as we're almost.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry. May I ask a question?
Yeah, for sure.
So, as you mentioned previously, like to join the different professors' lecture is most important in your university life, right? But what about if there's cases that the professor has a really strong accent that you have no clue what he is talking about? And at that time, you rather choose to study self yourself instead of like wasting time on him. Could you give advice about this? Because like in this morning, I just registered all my courses, and then unfortunately, I got 2 professors who like has a really strong Indian accent, as you know, like. So I need some help about this. Could you share a little bit your experience?
I'm going to tell a story. So okay. So when I took the first ever university class I had was a Monday 9 a.m. math class. I walked so long, first of all, and I was already really sad. And I was like, I need to sit in the front row so I can pay attention because math is not my strong suit. And oh my goodness. So this guy walks in. And so we did research later. He was just a master's student. He was just an instructor. He was not a professor, okay? So this guy walks in and he goes, today we go to start with bacteria. And I was like, what happened? What just happened? Okay, so let me say, I really tried. I didn't miss a single class. I went to every class. I had 3 hours of math every day for 12 weeks. I went to every class, and when I had the final, I still didn't understand a thing. All I did was copy his chalkboard, and he still used chalk on Blackboard. I copied his notes, but I didn't understand anything. Okay, I tried really hard, but anyways, so that's my story. But yes, I had that struggle too. You know what the easiest thing you can do is to go to another section time.
Oh, okay.
Look on the like the syllabus, or not syllabus, look on like the timetable. They'll list all the possible like times, right? Even if you're registered for like the 9 a.m. and if you have a spare at the 1 p.m., just go to that class. They teach the same thing. And then the final is the exact, I don't know what school you're at.
Actually. Oh, I will go into Western University.
You're going to Western. If I'm not wrong, Western is like U of T. It's only U of A that's weird because every instructor makes their own tests. But if you're at a university where there's a course coordinator and many different instructors, the course coordinator is the one that writes the final, and everyone enrolled in that class, regardless of section and instructor, writes the same final. So if you need to go to a different, confirm that it won't affect your final, confirm that everyone writes the same final, and then just go to a different section time, listen to a different professor.
Well, what about if that professor like take your attendance and attendance is one part of your mark?
Then go to that class, do the attendance, but don't listen. And then just go to a different section time.
Okay. Thank you for your advice. That helps a lot.
No worries.
That helps a lot because I'm like currently
some
frustrating.
tips.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So we will take one final question, seeing as it's almost been an hour since we've been presenting. Is there like a golden ratio between study time and personal time from the chat? Like how would you balance social life and studying?
I think this is definitely depending on the person, but one answer that I can give is that this is when you need to be very good at knowing yourself. For example, I'll use myself as an example. I am not someone that has a really long attention span, and I'm not someone that can stretch out things for very long. Some people can like start 2 weeks early and then finish writing assignment. I'm not someone like that. So I usually, whenever I receive an assignment, I usually do an estimate of, based on how much I know myself, how long do I think I need to take in order to have a final product that is up to my own standards. First of all, when I know that it's up to my own standards, I shouldn't do too terribly, right? This is based on experience from high school. And then if I give myself, let's say if I need 3 hours to complete this, I'm going to give myself at least 5 hours. Maybe I need to take some break between working. Maybe when I finish, I need to, go for a walk and then come back and edit. These are the things I need to take into account. But I need to know myself very well and plan out how much I need to be studying. And then everything else, it's your personal time. You can do whatever you want.
So like in terms of percentage, so like something like 80 to 20, like 80 study, 20 do whatever.
I don't want to give you a ratio because everyone is very different. I am someone who crams a lot because my attention span is short, and I have a pretty high efficiency of studying, and I also tend to juggle a lot of extracurriculars. But I know a lot of other people, they are very good at grinding, so they can just work a long time and then they like to get things done before they go do other things. But I think the most important thing is do not pull all-nighters. Try to sleep early. So when you know yourself, let's say like I need to stop studying at 12 p.m. and then just move backwards on, if I need 8 hours, I'll start at 4. Wait, that's bad math. And just start, wait, yes, that's 4. Sorry, I told you I was bad at math. But yeah, so I think it's very, very subjective, that question. I can't really say much. I'm sorry, that's just, yeah.
I think we can squeeze in just one last question. So 作为大学生，你认为暑假期间应该怎样安排？
这个问题其实很好，因为我觉得，尤其是大学期间的暑假，并不能算是放假，其实应该算是对于未来以及就是以后工作安排的，应该准备的一部分，就是对于这个人未来想选的路，你一定要在暑期做一些能为他做准备的事情。比如说，如果你喜欢作为一个生物学生，如果我以后想当一个研究员，我要去考研究生、考博士，那我肯定在暑假的时候就一定要早早的接触实验室呀，早早的接触一些研究人员，让我能有这个经历，在大4的时候直接就能一鼓作气考上研究生嘛。但是如果比如说我是要走工程师或者是computer science IT 这条路呢，在暑假的时候就一定要努力去找一些实习岗位，因为它呢首先能教你一些比较就是实用的东西，还有就是如果你要是干得好的话，有可能还会给你发 offer， 以后毕业了就可以直接去。然后呢，还有就是大家比较关心的就是，如果想考医学院的话，在就是暑假的时候一定要非常努力，因为医学院需要你就是申请的时候需要你有的履历，你一定要一一把它打卡完成。比如说要考 MCAT 呀，比如说要去做一些义工啊，比如说要去各种各样的地方体验一下，然后找一些 reference 呀。所以说一定要了解自己以后想干什么，然后一定要把暑假安排进努力的时间里面去，不要觉得放假了就是放假了。因为比较惨的说吧，你大一上了大学就没有暑假这么一说了。不过一定要劳逸结合哦，就是暑假还要放假的话，一定要出去玩哦。
All right. Thank you again for asking the questions to the audience, and thank you, Jessica, for your very insightful answers. So in conclusion, thanks again for presenting and offering mentorship to younger students about such an important issue, mental health and managing stress, which basically applies to everybody. Mental illness is obviously a really popular topic, and it's important that we recognize that it affects people of all ages from all cultures and communities, despite like how privileged or not privileged they are. And also, as you said, because you can't really see somebody's mental state as opposed to like someone being sick, breaking their arm, mental illness has been too often ignored. So thank you for bringing attention to it and teaching younger students how to deal with it in a constructive way. As high school students who are looking to transition to university, dealing with the stress, me and Kerry as the hosts, we have learned so much information about both preparing for university life and life skills in general, how to manage our stress from this conversation. And we are sure that the audience feels this way as well, as shown by everybody thanking you for such an amazing conversation and all the information that you've shared. So yeah, thank you again. And thank you to the audience. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good
Thank
rest
you,
of the
everyone.
day.
Thank you. Thank you.